Warning: this podcast episode discusses sensitive topics, including mental health, abuse, and suicide. The content may be distressing or triggering for some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling, please consider seeking support from a mental health professional or contacting a crisis helpline in your area. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Heart to Mic podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Chirono. Here we celebrate the power of authentic conversations, and together we'll explore our emotions, challenges, and growth through powerful storytelling. And today, being our first episode, we are doing a Get to Know Me video. I think it's very important to be able to be vulnerable outside of the perfect pictures that we post on social media platforms as an influencer. And I've been wanting to share my story for such a long time. And to be able to be sitting here is, first of all, a blessing. I'm also quite nervous, to be very honest, because I'm putting myself out there in a very different way. And I hope that this will be impactful the way I hope it will be. I hope this conversation will do something, it's something that I've been innately feeling to do. It's been a passion, not a passion, but a conviction that I may need to step into the podcast space and tell my story in a very different way and also on my own terms. And I'm happy to be here. And I have none other than my friend Karen Mairu, who's on the director's seat. You may not be able to see her, but you're going to see her in a few episodes coming soon. And she will be able to steer this conversation ahead.
Who is Stephanie Chirono?
Stephanie Chirono now? Peaceful. I think I'm striving to find a lot of peace in my life. I am also very spiritual. I love the Lord with all my heart, and I'm unashamed to say it. I'm also in a very God has his hand over me space, because I really genuinely don't know what the future looks like anymore. And I was such a planner before, in that I had a vision as to how I wanted my life to look like. And obviously things are changing, and Stephanie now is accommodative. Stephanie now is open-minded. Stephanie now is very prayerful. Stephanie now is showing love the way I would love to receive love, and doing it unapologetically.
Wait, are you comfortable sharing when you were born?
Yes. Oh, I'm now open to talking about my age. I don't know why for a long time I was just like, we're not saying our age, but like I'm open. I am 26 years of age. I was born in 1997, and I genuinely think that I'm exactly where I need to be. So before, I think my issue with age was thinking that I've not achieved the things that I wanted to have achieved at that time. And at this point in time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly where God wants me to be. And that makes it very easier to step into my light with confidence. I'm not ashamed of my age. I think in this particular season, I am good being 26.
What was your early childhood like?
It's so funny, because I had to call my sister this morning because I had a feeling you're going to ask about my childhood. And I don't know if you guys are aware of something called a psychic block, where you intentionally block a certain period of your life because of the trauma that may be attached to it. It just happens that for me, I've blocked out quite literally everything. And there's not much that I remember from my childhood. However, I was born at around 3 a.m., 9th of September, 1997, at Empisha Hospital. I'm a lastborn, so I am literally, to this day, I am my mother's baby. And I think the first few years of my life, maybe the first 3 years of my life, were in Kericho, because my mom and my dad at the time were living in Kericho, doing business in Kericho. So I was born here, and then we moved there. But I didn't respond well to the weather, and had a little bit of issues with my health. I had pneumonia when I was a child for a bit. So my mom was very, very protective of me as a kid. I don't remember much of my dad, because at 3 years old, I don't think you're really paying attention of your surrounding, really. And shortly after that, they separated. So I don't remember much. However, I asked my sister what type of child I was, and she was very much insisting on the fact that I was a loner, and most of the time I'd prefer to stay by myself. Also because of the fact that my mom was like, that is the baby.
leave the baby alone. And I used to chew rubbers as well. Like, you know, the pencils that have like the rubbers at the top? It's the rubber that I wanted. It's not even the pencil. It's the rubber that I want. I literally have a picture of me holding a pencil in my hand, inside my mouth, eating the rubber at the top. And yeah, I think I was just very much an introvert, which is coming to right now. So weird. I'm saying introverted and I'm here doing a podcast. But yes, I feel like in the past few years of my life, I was just keeping to myself because of the things that were happening around me subconsciously.
How was home growing up with your siblings?
So my siblings I have 2 siblings. My sister is a firstborn, Sharon, and then my brother, secondborn, Sheldon. And I think in the beginning stages of our life, because when I was in primary, they were towards like high school. So they were in boarding school for majority of the primary, and they were in boarding school in like Nakuru, and we were living in Nairobi at the time. All I remember is that I was visiting them a lot to school, visiting day and whatnot. But I don't think we really had a relationship up until both of them moved to schools in Nairobi. There was obviously a lot of sibling rivalry because we're all trying to navigate trauma. Our dad had just left, and we're trying to navigate life being led by a single mom, you know, and for her being the only one there, she was doing her best to take us to the best schools and make sure that we did not feel the absence of our dad. I don't think we've nurtured our relationship up until now, when I'm very intentional about it.
Now, growing up with mom alone, was it a strict upbringing?
Yeah. Oh, child. Mom, if you're watching this, you know yourself. Like, my mom was very strict, and I don't think that she was doing it out of like any other reasons other than the fact that she was trying to protect me from what is outside, like what is in the world. And I think now I'm aware of it because of being outside and seeing the wahala that is outside here. But before that, it was just like, even like playing around. It was by, ukiona giza, and if you're not a Kenyan, when you see the darkness, even the glimpses of the darkness, get your ass in the house. And I just always knew that if I don't get myself to the house at a certain time, then I'm going to get, you know, those inner thigh pinches. And those ones slap different. Let me tell you guys, those ones slap very different because it's quite intimate. Let's start there. And then she's holding to a small piece of meat, small piece of your skin, but it's going to stay there for a while. But I genuinely think that she did that because, number one, I'm the last born. And to think that her child would be exposed to what is out there, I think that was a fear that she had. And she was just like, you better put your ass in the house. But other than that, I went to boarding school when I was in class 5. So I was in day school for a while. I went to Camelville here in Donholm. Stayed there for a bit, and then my mom was like, okay, it's time for you to go to boarding school. And then I went to St. Elizabeth in Karen. And let me tell you the funniest story. I found a weevil in my bun. A weevil. And I said, cut the cameras, dead ass. I am not staying in this school, mom. I'm like, I found a weevil in my bun and it's break time. And this school is in Karen. I cannot believe you're bringing me to a school in Karen that has weevils in their bun. I need to be taken out. And that's when she moved me to Green Garden in Kikuyu, where we were eating ice cream and like chips, and like we had biscuits and stuff for tea, and like we had a golf course and a swimming pool. It was just a very different life altogether. And to this day, my siblings still think that like I've been favored, which is true anyway. My mother loves me, guys. Yeah, but being in boarding school protected me from a lot of things, and also coincidentally, I think I missed a lot of my birthdays, and I know we're going to get to that, but like I missed a lot of my birthdays because when school is about to start, September 9th, we're already in school because we've opened September 1st or 2nd, thereabout. Yeah.
And how do you think going to boarding school at such a young age affected you?
I think there's like a level of independence that you get from boarding school. However, I think in the beginning, I just felt like my mom just threw me there, and it felt like I was being abandoned. And I struggled with that for a bit, but I realized that I needed to survive. So I went on survival mode at such a young age. And I think I carried that forward even to high school. But like, I genuinely didn't want to be in a boarding school. I preferred to be at home, but like I knew that that is what would work for the benefit of my mom being able to work while we are away. And I think for that, it set the precedence of me being very independent as well, because you just need to survive. You need to be very aware of your routines. You need to be very aware of your surroundings. You need to be very careful with your own belongings as well, because you don't want to go back home and you don't have a shirt, or you lost a pair of socks, or whatever. So it's like I was forced to be an adult.
Do you think this contributed to hyper-independence?
Absolutely. Oh my God, yes. Yes, you know, like being in boarding school from like class 5, and class 5 maybe I am 9, 10. I was very young. I wasn't ready for that, and I think just that mindset is what now transferred to high school and now where I am at.
Okay, while in boarding school, how was your relationship with mom?
I don't know if I remember it clearly, but like I think it was just like visiting day. It became routine based. Yeah, our relationship is routine based. I think in this moment, we have conversations that are very deep and detailed about quite literally every single thing that we are going through. And that has only come to pass because also of the awareness that has come with therapy, but the openness that also has also come with the growth of our relationship. But prior to that, it was very routine based. And I think all of us were quite literally in survival mode. We had envisioned, or I think my mom had envisioned a different life for us from what she ended up being, what ended up being her reality, which is, okay, now I'm having to take care of all these kids by myself. And my responsibility in this moment is make sure you get good education and you have food and you have a home. And that was what it was. It was just, this is what I'm doing. I am taking you to school. You're in the best schools, but it wasn't really like a routine check of like, how are you feeling? Is your heart in, is your heart in like the right place? Are you struggling with something? We never had those kind of conversations.
Tell us your period story.
I really wanted to get my period, guys. I really wanted to get my period. And everyone around me had gotten their period. I think I was like in class 6 and I faked it. And I told my mom, I got my period. And she said, show me. I said, why? Because it's intimate. What do you want me to show you, my period? And she said, how long? I said, see, I bled today and it ended. And she said, 1 day. I said, yeah, mine is different. And I'm telling you, one day, she bought pads and everything, and I wore one, but she went ahead to the dustbin to check, and there was nothing there. And she was like, Stephanie, I think you need to just wait for it to come. And let me tell you what now God did, because I really wanted it so bad. He said, Shika, siku saba. So now my periods are 7 days long and they're quite heavy. And I always think I literally yearned for this thing. And now I got it and I got the worst of it, the cramps, quite literally the worst. And even when I was in primary school, my mom used to have to come for me in school because whenever I was on my period, I was anemic. So I had to get medicine. So I was always taken out of school during that period of time because I'd get lightheaded. Why? Because I just wanted to be a woman. Guys, don't rush this thing. Because now I'm surviving. We found a way to survive with 7 days. But like the fact that I think I compared myself with so many other girls and I was like, oh my God, they have boobs, you know, they're on their periods, their thighs and their hips are like showing and stuff. And Chero is just there. I was such a skinny babe, first of all, when I was young. And I was the tallest in my class, which made me even sync with the guys. Because we were taking pictures. They're like, Chero, no, stand at the back with Fred and Brian, just naming random names, but stand there at the back because now the girls are petite and short with their boobs and all these things. And I was just like, I'm not feminine at all, which led to me being a tomboy. That's a different phase. And I ended up wearing the Supras and whatnot. I had a phase where I was like deep in the Supra generation. Yeah.
Tell us about your high school experience.
Ooh. Are we really going there? Yeah. First of all, I think I went into high school with such a different mindset because the last few years of my primary school were not the best. The last year, actually. Before class 8, class 7. So when I joined Green Garden has this thing where every year they have an international trip. And I came home and I told my mom, I've told everyone in school that I'm going for this trip. I don't know if you have the money. I don't know if you don't, but I'm going for this trip. And it was to Egypt and then Paris for a bit. And She was just like, you're lucky because I've just gotten a promotion and I have a bit of money. But I was like, Mom, if you don't take me to Paris, I'm not going back to that school. And again, I'm the last born. So things were moved around and I was able to travel. But now when coming to class 8, there's one time my mom came to school with my dad and I had not seen my dad in, God knows, I think like 6 years. And it destabilized my mental space completely because I now had expectations. Bear in mind that my dad left when I was pretty young, so I wasn't able to have a relationship with him up until... There's 2 stories to tell. Remind me to tell you a story about birthdays. But like in this situation, he came to school and he was coming to see my grades. And I never saw him again after that. And every single time I was asking, because I remember I made a request and I was like, can you please come for my prayer day? And he said, for sure, I'm going to be there. And then he didn't show up. And I was very, very devastated. However, I have an uncle that stepped in immediately and took in that role very seriously. And he's the one who took me now through high school. But when you talk about birthdays and my relationship with birthdays, that has now recently changed. However, before that, I think I was turning 7. And I don't know if you guys remember like the Splash days when Splash was like hitting. It was like the cool sport, you know what I mean? Everyone wanted to go to Splash. And my mom organized, and I was very, very big on birthday cakes. At the time I was into music or whatever. So my birthday cake was shaped as a guitar. And because my dad said he wants to come and pick us up to take us for swimming, I said, you guys are not going to cut my cake before I come back from swimming. So what did Chero do? Chero put her cake under the bed. And I put it under the bed. And I had a habit. My sister told me that I had a habit of hiding stuff, hiding food, hiding snacks, hiding things that you just don't find them. So I hid my cake under the bed and we went for swimming, went to Splash, and I went with a couple of my friends in the estate. At that time, we were living in Tena in Eastlands. So my dad came and picked us up, took us to Splash, and he forgot about us. And he didn't pick us up until 8 p.m. And I think that scared me so much because ever since that time, I never wanted to celebrate my birthdays. It really injured my heart because I was looking forward to cutting my guitar cake. And by the time now, my mom is calling and asking, yo, where are the kids? It's like, oh, I forgot. Let me go pick them up. I came back home and found that my cake was cut and it was divided to neighbors and everything, and guys had left. And since that time, I said, I don't want to celebrate birthdays anymore. Because what's the point, But it's changed. It changed in 2022. And I was 24 since 7. So 17 years later, I was able to now find the need or find the beauty in celebrating your life every year. I'm surprised I'm not crying when I'm surprised. I think it's because I've made peace with it. And I think the beauty also in healing is that you forgive. Yeah. So I've forgiven my dad. I have. And I'm seeing him as a human being now. I think having learned his family and the background in which he was raised made me empathize with him and see him as a human being and be obviously, because of the environment that you were raised in, this is how you turned out to be. It was inevitable that this is the route that you would take. But again, I sympathize with him and I hope that he finds healing wherever he is.
How is your relationship with your dad?
Oh, we don't have a relationship. We don't at all. I think the last time I saw him was during my sister's wedding, and before my sister's wedding, the last time I saw him was during my brother's wedding. And before that is when I was in class 8. Yeah. So he'll make appearances when there's big deals and he wants to take credit for them. But other than that, I don't even know where he is. I really don't.
I'm at peace with that.
I am. Finally. I think there's a stage in my life when I really, really wanted him to know me and reach out and have a relationship with me, because when he was leaving, my siblings had already experienced him. But yeah, I just didn't. And I think trying I think there's once, like during my primary time, I tried to even call him using my mom's phone. I tried to make him come here. There's once he came here, dropped me a phone, and he didn't even sit down. He just dropped me a phone. It's like, my mom told you, your mother told me you need a phone. Gave me the phone and he left. So to find peace, it's taken a lot of work for me to fully forgive and fully let go. Yeah.
Okay, back to school life. What were your grades like?
Class 8, I think I got like 4 for my KCPE. I'm generally a smart babe. I'm not gonna lie, but with the 4, I did my best based on the circumstances. And I think my mom was really worried about my performance because she was like, I understand the things that have just transpired, but I need you to pass so we can be able to get a good list of schools. So I did my best. I think 4 was good. Went to high school and I performed well in high school up until Form 4 where I got suspended. And when I was suspended, I had to do my exams as a day scholar, and there was so much shame around that because, again, you're suspended in your 4th year. Why? I got into a bit of like trouble and I took accountability for it, but also in the same breath during like because they will have boardroom meetings and they will tell you, come and like, kujitetea, like come and tell us why we should bring you back in school. And I remember one of the comments that they made that now we vowed, my mom is actually the one who stood up for me and she was like, you're not going to go there. But the principal at the time, may her soul rest in peace, Nyambongi, said, we think the reason why Stephanie behaves like this is because she doesn't have a father figure. And that was it for my mom. She was like, so now you've crossed certain boundaries and I'm fine with her doing her exams as a day scholar, if anything. And I picked my things and that's how I did my exams. And I think the stress that comes with that, my sister was also pregnant at the time and I'm home, she's home. It was just very overwhelming. And for me to even get did I get a B or a B plus or a B minus? I don't know. I think I got a B something. It was the best that I could do with those circumstances. I got the A's in maths and the A's in physics, but I just couldn't manage to carry the weight of everything else because of the circumstances that were going on around me.
Were you the bully or the one being bullied?
Oh, I was definitely the bully. And I think it's because of I grew up in a very harsh environment at home. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of physical abuse at home. But that led to me being very, very defensive, very, very, very apprehensive. And I was just not willing to let people get to me like that anymore. So even from me entering school, I entered the Rangers Club, and Rangers Club at the time was known as the Bad Girls Club because we were wearing the short skirts and, just taking over the school basically. And when I was in Form 1, I had friends in Form 4. So obviously with that, having that affiliation separated me from my classmates immediately. And to be honest, I don't think that I bullied because I wanted to. I think it just was a way to protect myself. And I don't even know, in retrospect, I don't know what I was protecting myself from, to be honest. I think it's just a defense mechanism that you build when life just seems like it's throwing rocks at you every single time. So you want to be shielded way before the rocks start, coming at you. But overall, I think high school was also a blur. To be honest, I think I was going through it. Adolescence was happening, and I'm now I'm getting aware of the fact that my circumstances are not normal. The environment that I grew up in is not normal. But because I knew that, I assumed that that is what normal looks like. So when you hear stories about other people, you see visiting day and prayer day, people are coming with both parents, and like when people tell you their stories and how they've grown up, and there's a father figure involved, and you can tell the difference when a girl especially, has been loved by their father and one that hasn't. And I could tell the difference between myself and even my friends at the time because they had experienced a fatherly love. So they didn't have esteem issues like I did. They didn't have validation issues like I did. And just the demeanor and the energy that I had around men was very attention seeking because I'm like, finally, there's a man in the room. Maybe this would be the one to give me the attention that I deserve. But I just survived through it, to be honest. I remember at some point in high school, I cut my hair as well. And I think that now began the cycle of me cutting my hair whenever I'm going through something. I was just like, okay, cool. Let's cut our hair. I think that's what started the cycle of that, because it was like a way to cope.
You mentioned you were a tomboy in high school. Please tell me about that.
Yes, I was. I think I mentioned this whole Supra era. And I got my first tattoo as well when I was in high school. Bad girl thing in 17. Immediately after I was suspended, I was like, yo, I'm free. Now I can get my tattoos. I got my tattoo in high school, and I remember I had to hide it for a while because, you know, like when you get tattoos, you have to like let them heal because the ink is still like leaking off a bit. And I remember once I wore a white top, and my mom, when she was like going through the laundry, she saw the ink from like the tattoo, and she was like, I've seen something on your shirt. Ebu, come, I see. She saw the tattoo then, and immediately she was like, I want us to go through laser. You have to remove this thing. This is this tattoo, guys, the dog print. She was like, we need to get rid of it ASAP. And I was like, I'm sorry, but it tells a story, because at that point in time I had thought that I had fully let go of my dad, which is the meaning behind this tattoo. It is on my left side because it's on my heart, and it's walking out of my heart because I was finally allowing him to walk out of my heart, in a sense. But I was a tomboy. I only discovered my femininity after high school. Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, there's makeup. We can do mascara and like stuff like that. And then I became a makeup artist. Crazy.
Are you comfortable sharing why you were suspended?
I was suspended because a girl liked me. You know what it is. Anyway, but it's that season was a season of so much exploration, to be honest. I didn't know what I was doing, but like it led to me finding out the root cause of why I was doing the things I was doing. So I'm also grateful for that suspension, to be honest, because I started counseling right after that. And the first experience that I had with a counselor wasn't that great, and then started finding therapists after that. And that's when I figured out about daddy issues and how they would affect you showing up in male relationship, the male presence, and in relationships generally. And your love attachment styles have a lot to do with how you are raised and things like that. I started being exposed to this information just because I was suspended, and I think if it wasn't for that, then my healing journey would have started much later on, and the damage would have been so much more to fix.
What were some low stroke?
I was unfortunately raped when I was 17. And I thought I'd never say this, ever. I thought this was something that my friends would only know, but that happened. And it took so much time for me to get over it, because I was also drugged in the process. It wasn't a consensual, obviously rape is not consensual, but I was drugged. And I lost my phone, and I woke up in a disheveled state, and I could tell that something different had happened to my body. And it happened in the estate also. I don't know. You're just never the same after that kind of abuse, to be honest. And I still sometimes struggle with that, because I'm like, what would the reality of my life have been if that didn't happen? But yeah, there were so many things we needed to have addressed in therapy, because that was also one of the things, because unfortunately when it comes to rape, you blame yourself. If I didn't leave the house, maybe that wouldn't have happened. If I didn't have this kind of friends, maybe that wouldn't have happened. If I didn't allow myself to do this and do this, then that wouldn't have happened, but it did. And I think that is the first time that I felt like my soul broke, my heart broke into pieces, because I just didn't know how to navigate it. I think my siblings might be finding out about this for the first time today. And it was a journey that I had to go through with my mom. I think that was the first time we carried that burden together. yeah. All that glitters is not gold, guys. Yeah.
What was mom's response when you shared this with her?
I don't think she knew what to do other than just be there. So I think her first reaction was to find the person that did it. So it was cops involved and the chasing and the whatnot. But when you're raped, there's systems that take place, especially in the hospital. There's screenings that need to be done. And at that age actually it's not 17, it's 15. At that age to be put on ARVs because they want to prevent you from whatever you might have been exposed to because you are unconscious while it was happening was heavy. I don't know. I don't think anyone deserves that. I don't think I deserved it either. But it's part of the story, so we have to tell it. Yeah. You're already crying on episode 1, friend. I know, but surely. But that's the whole point of this podcast, is we're not gonna make it look like life is perfect, because it's not. And some of the things that we go through are the things that mold us, are the things that make us who we are. And I think that was the first traumatic situation that happened to me that I was just like, I need to protect myself more. But also it led to a series of so much confusion because I didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I wasn't in control of this situation. So, and for someone to, because that was the first time I had sex actually, so for someone to take my virginity in a non-consensual way, it's hurtful. It's very hurtful.
How did this occurrence affect your romantic relationships?
Oh, I think at some point I was in my hypersexuality phase where I was like, I'm trying to get my power back. And that went south real quick, to be honest. I think the phase between now, after I finished high school, which was 18 to 21, I was really trying to fight my position and trying to figure out how can I get this thing back. It's I'm trying to regain my virginity. It's I'm trying to get the consent of I'm the one in control, not you. This is my story. This is my time. But quickly I realized that with that I caused more damage, and with more damage means more fixing. And I had to do so much to undo the mess. Can't believe I'm sharing this.
Let me know about your journey with therapy and psychiatrists.
When I was 21, when now I went back to my mom and I was like, I think I'm doing it wrong. It's the first time I saw a psychiatrist. And I remember I was put on antidepressants immediately. I was clinically depressed and immediately I was put on medication, and I just couldn't tell anyone. I was ashamed of it because I was like, hi. By the time you're getting meds, you're crazy. I think that's the assumption, that the stigma around mental health is medication and admission is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. And when I had to be on medication, when I had to get meds to be able to operate normally, that also put me in another spiral.
Why did you go for therapy the second time?
I think I went into autopilot after being raped, because I felt like it would have been dealt with in a better way. First of all, I think my mom's parenting, which is great, is that Stephanie's experience and mine alone. Sharon's experience is Sharon alone and my mom. The same applies to my brother. So with my situation, we just dealt with it alone. And I think in that moment, I needed my brother to protect me. I needed my sister to advise me. And I couldn't get any of that because, again, it was my mom's and mine journey to take. So I think the times when I questioned why they can't be told, and I was met with, they're all going through their own things. And again, I'm very aware of this because of, again, the absence of a father, and especially with the way my dad left and having sad other children and having other families affected us deeply, and it affected us in different ways. So my mom was like, I think to her understanding, it is, let me go through this journey with you. But that wasn't enough for me at the time. So I just shut off the world and I decided to adult in my own way. So when now things started hitting me again, because you can run, but you can't hide, and you can run, but you can't run forever. I think when you're young and trying to understand the things that have happened that have led to who you've become. And I think for me, the root of all my problems was because I just didn't have a dad, which is why I'd advocate for people to be very present in their children's lives, but most especially their daughters. Because the absence of that led to me trying to find the love that I craved from him in every other space, in every other relationship that I was in. I was not looking for a partner. I was looking for a dad. And if I don't get the validation that I need, I leave and look for another dad. And that cycle became so toxic that now when I had to get help because I was now depressed and I was sad and because all these things are dawning on me now, and to be put on medication is when I was like, okay, then we are really in a bad place. We're not doing well. And I stopped taking my medication because I was like, I don't need them. And I think the depressive state that I went to after that was worse than anything that I'd ever experienced before. And that's when I started cutting myself. And the reason why I have this tattoo, it says continue, is because I had to block my wrist from being the point of access. I had to put it there to remind myself that regardless of how tough the situation may be, you have to continue, Chero. You have to keep going. You have to try. And it's just sad, genuinely, that majority of this journey that I was facing, I couldn't hold on to a sibling. I couldn't hold on to a parent. I couldn't reach out in that regard because also of the stigma that was around. I wasn't open about it up until I think I was 23 maybe. Again, there's shame. I don't know why there's so much shame around mental health. I don't know. And this is why, part of the reason why I'm doing this is to make sure that you know that it's okay. That whatever you're going through is fine. And if you need medication to be able to be yourself, then that's fine. I did as well. And surprise to you, I am back on my medication in this moment. But with a different mindset. I think this time around, I sought a psychiatrist because I was not able to function. And this happened in the month of May. We are in June now, so last month. I had the best time. I took a holiday with my mom. that was extremely healing to Masai Mara, because I had been to Masai Mara for my birthday last year, when now I'm officially celebrating birthdays again, and I'm in a space where life is worth celebrating. And I decided to this time have the same experience but with my mom, because bear in mind, this is the first holiday that she's ever taken. She's been taking care of us all these years and just never got a chance to have a holiday. So this was very important to me. It was very important to us. And I think the joy that I saw in her was very fulfilling. But like with most situations, when there's an extremely high, there's a low coming in soon. So I think the fact that we left the holiday, came back, and spent a couple, maybe like 3 days together, and she left back to where she is at the moment. And I was by myself. I started seeing things very differently. And it started becoming harder to get out of bed. It started becoming harder to go to the gym. It started becoming harder to eat healthy. It became harder to show up as myself because I didn't know myself. And I think this also ties to my journey in spirituality, because I have been made new by God. I've started a whole new life. And what I think I may have been struggling with is still identifying myself as my past and my pain, and thinking that that is the identification that I should go by for the rest of my life. But you feel an overwhelming sense of love and peace and purity and like newness in salvation that can be very confusing, if I'm being very honest. And I think that is what was happening after she left. I was like, okay, then who am I? And around the same time, I had also let go of Shivas because I had stopped drinking. So there were so many changes that I was going through, because I felt in me that I started drinking because it was a cool thing to do. I don't think I need to drink anymore. I've stopped doing that. And because of that, I've let go of an income source that was very comfortable. Now I'm in a space where I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know where we are going. I don't know where the next campaign is coming from. But coincidentally, L'Oreal came in at that time as well. But I wasn't able to celebrate it for what it was, because I was still knee deep into, where am I going? What does the future look like? Why would you leave me like this, you know? And for about 3 weeks, I did not go to the gym. I did not make one meal in this house. I ate out every day. And when I realized that there was a system where the person that I am in this home and the person that I show up outside is different, I knew there was a problem. And I knew it wasn't therapy. I knew it's not therapy that I needed, because I know what we are going to discuss. Pour into yourself. Affirm yourself. Surround yourself with love. Go outside and get some sunlight. You know, talk about your feelings. Journal. Go to the gym. But I was like, I'm unable to function. Where I'm at, I'm unable to do the things that I know I can do to be able to get myself out of this funk. And I called even Jules about this, because I saw Jules, and initially I was calling her to talk about this podcast. And I was like, I'm starting a podcast and I really need your input on what to do. But like the minute I sat there, that is not what I said. I went straight into, I think I might be depressed. This is what is happening. Life is seemingly quite dark at the moment. Let me backtrack it a bit. In November last year, we lost my aunt, my mom's sister. And we were heading to the burial. For some reason, my brother and everyone else was leaving the day before the burial. I insisted on coming with my sister the day of the burial in the morning. And we got into an accident. And the car was written off, but we left without a scratch. But it affected my relationship with the road, with driving, with the cars. And if you know me, you know I love speed. And in May, it is the instances where I needed to leave the house for one reason or the other, I kept on seeing myself dying. I was just like, maybe this is a day my tire is going to pop out. Maybe this is a day something is just going to appear on the road and I'll have to swerve and I'll die. Maybe this is a day, maybe this is a day. There's a lot of thoughts around me possibly dying. And I know that's the devil. But in the same breath, it is to show how dark of a space my head was in. My mental space was in the pits. So back to this lunch that I had with Jules, and immediately she was like, I think you need to see a psychiatrist. And I said, cool, share the number. And I went to see a psychiatrist, and I went with my friend Stephanie, and I knew the answer I would get, but I was also quite scared of hearing it. And she sat with me the whole day. I think we were there from like 2 p.m. till like about 7 p.m. And the minute the psychiatrist told me, okay, you're definitely depressed and we might need you to put you on medication, it hit different from the first time. Because in this time, I took myself. I wasn't forced into this. I took myself. And other than the fact that I took myself there, I was open to receiving the help that I needed. And I'm currently now on medication to be able to stabilize my mental health. And I think it's doing a great job because I'm here. We have faced the fear finally and we are starting. So there's no shame in that. There's no shame in anything, actually. None of the things that I've mentioned carry any shame. Because I'm finally ready to tell the truth. You know, I'm finally ready to say it as it is. And it's not as glamsy or like beautiful and editorial as it looks on social media. And I think I've been put in a space of influence for everything but not that. Not just to show the highs, but to show the lows as well. I'm a functioning girl. It's just that I need meds to function. And that's okay.